Hey everyone, in my previous video I made a review of all the new updates that have come out recently for the Tesla Model 3, and basically I have enhanced Autopilot, which means that I was fortunate enough to get Autopark. I did demonstrate briefly in the previous video how this worked and that it worked relatively well, but in this video we're going to explore a few different scenarios and test the limits of Autopark to see what type of parkings it can park in, what type of parkings it doesn't want to park in, and whether it does a good job overall of parking for you instead of having to manually park. Now this feature comes with enhanced Autopilot as well as FSD. As I mentioned before, in Europe the packages are slightly different to what you get in the US, but here are the prices for the US and for Europe. And basically in Europe it is slightly cheaper than the US equivalents, but in Europe the features don't work the same and are not as fully functioning. So for example, the enhanced Autopilot, which is one I have, it cannot automatic change lanes without user intervention, whereas in the US the car can change lanes by itself whenever it wants, basically, if you are navigating on Autopilot. The regular Autopilot cannot change lanes for you, but with Navigate on Autopilot in the US version, it can change lanes, so it's ready to take the correct turn off. In Europe, it tells you that it needs to change lanes and then you have to manually initiate. I will show this when I get on the highway just now. And full self-drive. In the US, you have the ability to navigate through city streets. In Europe, the only additional feature that you get if you get full self-drive is the enhanced Autopilot I had just described, with the ability for the car to recognize and stop at stop signs as well as traffic lights. So for the price differential between enhanced Autopilot and FSD in Europe, I don't think it's worth getting FSD. If you want some of the functionality, you know, of the fact that you can navigate on Autopilot and tell you when to take a turn off or tell you when to initiate the lane change, then enhanced Autopilot is great. I did not know that it didn't come with Autopark when I first got it, but now it does. So if that's consideration, 3,800 euros is the price in Europe. So that's the one that I have, and today I'll be demonstrating some of the Autopark functionality. To identify whether you have enhanced Autopilot or regular Autopilot, on the highway, if you have Navigate with Autopilot enabled, you will see a singular line on the street, on the road, instead of the double line next to each lane. So over here, you will see that I have a turn off coming up next in about 200 meters, and I need to turn right. In the US, it would automatically start indicating and turning right, but over here, as you can see, I have to indicate, nudge the wheel a little bit for it to change into that lane. This is due to EU regulation, not allowing cars to automatically initiate lane changes, etc. So as you can see here, at this turn off is actually a maneuver that Navigate on Autopilot doesn't support, which is a very short merge onto the next highway. So I think it's not confident enough to do that, and I guess because it isn't able to change lanes by itself, to warn the users to change lanes, etc., would have been too short of time frame for that to work. But as soon as I re-enabled here, a single line notes that is navigating, and it would tell me when to change lanes to get to the destination that I need to. In the US, I think it's worth $5,000 for it to do this automatically, because you can literally just start and just watch the road and it will change the relevant lane, get out of the way of faster cars on the left lane, and pass slower cars on the right lane for you. So in the US, I think that's quite convenient. Over here, I think it's a bit debatable whether you should get this. When I get to IKEA, I'm going to IKEA here in Matosinhos to get some stuff, but when I get to the mall, I will try a few different parking scenarios, a few different spaces and sizes, as well as different lighting conditions, to see if we can really push the limits of Autopark. Unfortunately, you know, you can't actually initiate it until it's confident it can. What we're trying to see here is what type of parkings it can recognize and what type of parkings it ignores. If it ignores, you cannot actually even force it to go. So as you see in my previous video, you have to wait for the P to show up. So we'll demonstrate some of this when we get to more shopping. Okay, you guys can see that I'm arriving in the parking at the mall. It is a very busy day. It's a Sunday. Usually Sunday IKEA's are generally pretty full because I think people like coming to check out the furniture and maybe get some inspiration. So how the Autopark works is you need to be driving along near the parking. The nice thing about the parkings at this mall is that they have a gap in between each car, a double lines, so you can see on the display that there's actually like, you know, almost like a rectangle between each parking bay. And once it recognizes that there's an open space or a space big enough, it highlights that with a P, and then you can click on it and it'll tell you that you can start your Autopark. Right now we are still far away from any sort of parking. I can't see any parking up ahead. And as mentioned before, you know, you can any alley dock and parallel park. It doesn't do head-in parking, so you can't just tell it to go forward into the parking. I think you can just drive that in yourself, I guess. But it would have been cool if you can do that as well. Okay, so I actually thought the road there was a parking, but that would have been incorrect. So you've got to be careful. You can't just take its word and park wherever you want. It obviously doesn't know about any of the traffic rules and, you know, the rules of the parking. So if there's a parking that's a drop and go or a loading zone or a parking for an ambulance, it wouldn't recognize that. It will just see that there's a gap and then it'll start parking if you wanted to park. So be sure to be attentive as well, just as you are if you're using Autopilot, and not just go for any parking that shows up on the screen. Well, this person here is leaving, so I guess I could potentially park here.
Oh, they're leaving.
Yeah, they are leaving. Cool. So this Mustang Mach-E is leaving. These French people, and we should easily be able to fit in there. The Mach-E is bigger than this car. What do you guys think about the Mach-E? Let me know in the comments below. I think it's a very interesting car. So basically you see a bubble show up like this, but oh, okay, and then you just press it and then the car shows you the path that it's going to take. That was actually pretty smooth. So if you see a grey block appear, you can go ahead and tap on it and then it will allow you to do the Autopark. So for this one, there's a pole in the middle of the parking in the rear. I'm not stepping on the brakes or the accelerator or anything. I'm just letting the car do its thing, and it parked relatively perfectly. Like, it looks like we're in the middle of the parking, no problem at all. It did veer closer to my side. I think it's because that car on the right is closer to the passenger side. Cool. We're going to try a few more parkings. Okay, so we are leaving now and it is very full, so I'm not going to be going to the other parking today to try, but I will be filming other parkings another day. But as you can see, every time it sees a gap that it's big enough, it thinks that it's a parking, even if it's just a gap for the car to drive through. So do not rely on just watching the screen when looking for a parking bay. Let's see if it registers some of the parking bays that are coming up. As you guys can see, the Tesla chargers here are not active yet. You see here's a bay here. Let's see if it's going to pick it up. Yep, it does pick it up, so you can pick that. There's another one there. There's another one there. It hasn't picked that one up. Oh, it's actually pretty quick at picking up these parking bays. So obviously a ton over there. It is actually pretty effective at identifying the parking bays. And maybe when we get back to Mazinhos in town, we might have to parallel park, and over there we can demonstrate some parallel parking. Okay, we're arriving at this park. There's a jazz festival right now and there are a few parallel parkings. Let's see if it picks them up and whether we'll be able to park. Here's a zebra crossing, so it didn't recognize that as parking. I wonder if it's because it was a zebra crossing or because it just wasn't big enough or something. Okay, I'm not seeing any parkings pop up. Parking on the left seems to be for taxis only. Well, I mean, that's in front of a bus stop, so I don't think I should park there. There's another gap, but also for pedestrian crossing. It seemed like it would fit anyways. It doesn't look like there's any parking here, so I might have to drive around a little bit more to find another place with some parallel parkings. Okay, so this person got a parallel parking right here. As you can see, it actually shows the indicator. So he's going in there. It actually recognized it, but you know, I couldn't have taken from him. I actually wonder what would have happened if I pressed P over there while the guy was about to park. And Tesla will go into crazy mode and like ran the car out of the way to get the parking. Okay, there's parking. There's quite a few parallel bays here. Okay, so I can park here. Let's see what happens. Let's start parking. So it goes ahead. I mean, I could have just gone forward, but let's see what it does. Oh, so that person actually took it, so I won't be able to park there anymore. Okay, well, that's what happens when someone takes the parking. But it's okay.
But it's still going.
Okay, well, I guess.
No, the Tesla's still going.
So it's actually got confused and thought it could carry on parking, even though the guy actually went in there. So be careful. If someone steals your parking, do not just let Tesla do what it wants to do. Is there anyone behind me? Not really. So let's see if I can attempt to parallel park here. Yes, I can. Let's see if it'll get into that one. This one's actually on a curve, so it's not exactly straight. Okay, so it kind of got into the bay, but I'm not sure if that was the definition of the bay. Let's get out of the car and see whether that was in the right spot. Okay, so as you can see, it is actually completely out of the bay. It's in the wrong spot. It didn't do a good job at all. I think it left enough space for the road, but you can see there's not anywhere close to the edge of the parking. So as you guys can see in the previous parking, it's not very accurate if the parking isn't very straight, but it is very cautious in terms of not getting too close to the curb. So if you need to make adjustments, you can always, like, you know, show me the car afterwards. So now I'm gonna head to the mall and try a few different alley docking positions, and then later in the video we'll try at night to see if the lighting has an effect on whether the Autopark can be effective or not. So enhanced Autopilot in Europe allows you to change lanes, but you have to indicate manually, and then you have to nudge the wheel. So what it does is it knows which lane you need to be in. So that's the only difference between enhanced Autopilot and regular Autopilot in Europe. Whereas, like I said before, in the US, it will actually change the lanes for you if you change the setting to allow it to. So over here, if you don't pay attention to what it's telling you to do, you could just pass your exit and defeat the point of navigating on Autopilot. So as you can see, we are exiting the motorway now, and navigating on Autopilot only works on the motorways or highways. As soon as I get off the this motorway, you'll see that this will change into a blue line on each side, which means it's not navigating now, it's just staying within the lane like regular Autopilot. So it tells you Autopilot navigation complete, press accelerate to resume. It actually slows down and eventually stops, so you actually have to accelerate for it to continue with regular Autopilot. Obviously with regular Autopilot you cannot change lanes, so you have to do that yourself. Phantom braking is still pretty present and aggressive. I think that wasn't so much phantom braking, that was just, you know, I was getting too close to the car. It doesn't really get that close even in bumper to bumper traffic, so I always use the accelerator to move the car closer to the car in front of me. What do you guys think about the new graphics? There's a lot more car shapes as far as I can tell, and then also every single car has a tail light on top, as you can see. We're going to North Shopping now to go to the Continent, and there's a few parkings there. I'll try a few alley dockings, and if there's any parallel parkings, I'll try some parallel parkings there as well. Okay, now that we've entered the parking lot, although it is during the day, this is undercover, so it isn't as bright as if you're out in the open, but there's more than enough visibility, so I would expect that Autopark should work perfectly. Let's try find a parking. Well, it's actually very busy today. I wouldn't expect it to be busy on a Tuesday, a random Tuesday. This person's leaving as well, but let's see if we can find a parking further down. Okay, here's the alley docking gap next to the pillar. Let's see if it's able to recognize that's parking. It does. Cool. Press start, so it's going to go ahead. Okay, so it's next to the pillar, so let's see and how close it gets to the pillar, and whether it uses the gap as an advantage. Sometimes I'm quite nervous that this thing might. Okay, that's. I thought I was going to keep going into the car. I was a bit nervous there. My foot's on the brake just in case. Okay, no, it seems like it's doing pretty well. Wow, it's good. It's going to adjust. It's a lot closer to this car than the pillar, as you can see, but it's well within the line, so it's not too bad. Okay, now let's try another parking space. This one's next to a pillar. Let's see what it does when it's next to two cars. So there's a parking right up here with a black small car and a white estate. Okay, so I can initiate the park even though I'm like skew, and see what it does. Turn on the indicator to show everyone else that it's trying to park. There's a bit of lighting variation in this one because the sun is halfway into the bay. Okay, so it's very much close to this side. Okay, that's not bad at all. So I would say it's equally left and right, so it's not too bad. I think that was a pretty good job, and there's sufficient space on both sides. Okay, let's go find another parking. Let's see what it does over here. This one's a bit tighter. Okay, let's see if we can get into here. Okay, that's a very strange angle. It looked very sketchy. It actually looked like it was going to hit that car. So the other car is actually into this lane, but as you know, at this mall there's gaps in between both, so there is enough space. I must say, it takes the parking quite confidently. This is kind of a tight squeeze, so I think it did a pretty good job. I think it's very convenient. I mean, I don't have to worry about parking anymore. Obviously, I'm worried that it will hit something, so I'm not sure if that worry overcomes the worry of having to park manually. I do think it is very convenient. I mean, whether I would buy it or not, different story. I think I would have bought it because it was cool, but whether it's worth it in terms of, you know, parking by itself, you have to make that decision yourself. Let's see if we can find another one. So here's the EV parking. This is a big one. Okay, so let's see. This one should have no problems whatsoever. Okay, went over the line there, but there was obviously no obstacles, so it's fine. It is generally quite cautious. So let's see if it goes onto the stoppers. I know the car behind me is too close. So I would say that's a perfect parking as well. So in terms of alley docking, I think there's no problems during the day when there's sufficient light. And as you saw previously, the parallel parks on the street seem to work okay. It's not too bad. And let's try again later when it is a bit darker to see how it performs at night or in dim lighting conditions. Okay, there's a smart car parked funny in front of this bay, alley docking bay, but yeah, it looks like we're fitting. Well, this Autopark's actually pretty good, guys. 3,800 euros good or $5,000 good? I don't know about that.
It's just a low light situation, so
really
that was pretty good. But I think it's because your cameras are clean today.
Go closer to the back because it's cutting out. Cool.
I think it's because your cameras are clean today.
Yeah, I think so. Come in, and there was a car here. So yeah, actually it was pretty good. Okay, now we are going to be going into a parking garage. One Lidl parking garage here in Matazimios, And this one time I actually had an issue parking. I didn't get it on camera, but let's see if we can reproduce that. It is night time right now, although the parking is lit, so I'm sure in terms of visibility there won't be any issues. It is a bit foggy tonight, so when I come out later, maybe I can get some shots of it in the dark, in the fog, and some streets that are not lit. Now let's check how it performs here at Lidl parking today. I have noticed that in some situations it does struggle, and this one time it actually parked halfway into the parking and just stopped and ended as if it was done. There are a few empty spaces. The nice thing about the Tesla vision based parking is that it doesn't require obstacles on both sides of the parking. It can actually see the lines on the road or in the parking, as demonstrated in the earlier parts of this video, so it can actually park anywhere that it identifies parking spaces. So as you can see here, now I have it on full screen. You can see all these empty parking spaces it has picked up. Now usually it's a bit tricky when there is a more narrower space. So over here next to this Volkswagen, I can try and get into here. So you can see right next to the Volkswagen there's a pillar, and let's see what it does. Okay, no, it's actually going to the previous one. I misread that one, but this one also has a pillar, so let's see what it does. There's a pillar up front over there as well, so it can't go too far forward. But there's a pillar on the driver's side over here, and then obviously a car obstruction on the right. It's pretty close to the pillar, and it does seem to leave sufficient space for the passenger to get out as well. So that was actually a pretty perfect parking. Then it's done. When it completes, it just stops. And also what I noticed sometimes is if there's cross traffic and it needs to go back out, I actually had to brake this one time because it didn't pause, so it kept going forward. I don't know if it was going to stop, but I wasn't going to risk driving into someone to find out. But let me try another parking in this lot. Here's the one that I actually wanted to try. So this one is over here next to this car over here, next to the exit actually. It didn't actually light up, but you can actually tap on it. I was going to go ahead. This one's a little bit tight because as you can see, I'm not sure you can see clearly, but the pole has a fire hydrant on it and some extra protection for the fire hydrant. So you can see it's getting pretty close to that Volkswagen. Okay, I'm not doing anything, by the way. So it's shimming itself back and forth, trying to get into the space. Okay, it's definitely leaving enough space on that side, and it's trying to avoid this pillar, but it kind of gets scarily close to that car over there when it got in here. And now it's a bit uncertain. I don't know what it's doing. It's trying to straighten out, but also scared to hit the pillar. So now it's going back. Oh, whoa. Did it almost hit?
Yeah.
Just show how close it is to the...
I don't think you should show.
Show how close it is? Is it close?
It's pretty close, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get out of this bay now. Anyways, I'm gonna get out now. So that seemed like it was gonna get pretty close to the Volkswagen. So that was a bit crazy. But let's just try a regular bay now, where it's like pretty empty. So I'm going to choose that middle bay. As you can see, you don't need to be positioning yourself up for the parking. It actually moves the car out of the way for you. So I actually thought I specified the middle one, but I chose the one next to the pillar. I mean, I specified the wrong one. When there's no other cars or no other actual obstacles, it's pretty confident and it goes within the lines usually pretty well. Okay, I need to jump into the store and get something, and I'll be back and we can go try some other parking spaces as well.
Yes, closing at 10.
Okay, so we are getting out of here now. That was kind of sketch. Although I don't know if we were actually that close, because I couldn't see really up close. I mean, I don't think I would get that close if I was driving myself. But it does put you in a bit of sketch situation like that, and you don't want to risk someone else's car, right? So yeah. Let's go find some street parking. And and see if there's any nice street parking in a dimly lit area. Okay, so there seems to be a parking up ahead over there. That's right underneath the light, so there should be no problems with Tesla vision. As you can see clearly that this is very clear. So it picked up one over there. Let's see if it picks up this one over here. Sometimes it's like pretty stubborn, so it did not pick that one up. Let's see sometimes when I start it picks it up. Nope, it doesn't want to get into there. I don't want to park there, that one's too easy. I want to make it easier for Tesla Autopark. There's a very big parallel parking here, but it doesn't seem to. Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is pretty big. It's under a tree. There's a big light here in front of us. So let's see what it does. There's no one behind us. Getting pretty close to this car here. I'm not doing anything. Okay, visibility is not too bad here because firstly there's a light there. The fog isn't too bad over here. I have noticed as a tip, if the block that it shows is protruding out a bit, wait for it to adjust, because if it protrudes out, it will actually park protruded out. And what I have noticed is that it likes to get quite close to the car behind you. Oh, that's pretty. No, that's not too bad. I mean, it's not 100% straight, but I think that was good enough, to be honest. Oh, there, that's super dark.
This is right opposite the police.
The police is there, but
it's not a parking. It's not a parking.
Okay.
It's got the cross on it.
No, but like it's just okay. There's a parking that picked up here. You need to bring vehicle to complete stop. Okay, so this one's actually really dark, as you can see. There's no street light around. Just purely using the lights from the car. I mean, granted, this was pretty long parking. It was like a 1.5 bay as well. It sometimes does very weird maneuvers. But yeah, that was pretty perfect, I would say. No problems there. Yeah, that was pretty dark, eh? So in conclusion, as you saw in the whole video, for the most part it works pretty well. It's a pretty confident parker, I would say, and it really tries to get into quite a few tight spaces. Is it worth 3,800 euros that I paid for enhanced autopilot? I think so. I use it all the time now. Like, if I have to park, I would say 8 out of 10 times I would try activate it, just for convenience sake, and also like I think it's pretty cool. But if you are in the States, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I found out while I was editing part of this video that they are no longer offering enhanced autopilot. It's only FSD available now, and they've dropped the price from $10,000 to $8,000. Personally, I think $8,000 for full self-drive is great, because it's equivalent to potentially hiring a chauffeur, for example. So I think $8,000 for FSD in the US is worth it. Obviously that comes with Autopark. In Europe, for the premium that you pay for FSD without the actual full self-drive functionality, as in you get the same thing that I have with enhanced autopilot plus stopping at stop streets and traffic lights, I don't think it's worth it. So if you guys want Autopark in Europe, I think getting enhanced autopilot makes up for the fact that you can't auto lane change with enhanced autopilot on highway. So I would buy it again if I was ordering my car. In the US, it really comes down to whether you want FSD or not. I think it's a bit of a pity that you can't just get enhanced autopilot and get Summon, Autopark, and not have the full city self-drive capability. So in the US, I think it's a little bit more of a consideration. But again, $8,000 I think is a great deal for practically a chauffeur that can drive you around to most places. I know that I would use it a lot, and that's not everyone's case. So thank you for watching this video. If you like my content, remember to click the like button and subscribe to keep updated, and we'll see you again next time.